We've been talking at a fairly detailed level about how objects are implemented and what they look like. I know some of you want to know more. Others are probably satisfied and you'd rather have the abstraction. But in computer science, you will be forced to learn this stuff. Mostly the details of the implementation you will find in your systems classes. So what I'm going to talk about for the rest of this lecture is optional material for this course. It's a preview of what you're going to get in systems. I'm drawing pictures like this, where we have the num5s method with two local variables and a third local variable a, which is pointing to an array. And here my main method also has local variables, in this case two of them, args and list. And what this is really mapping to in memory, if you actually were to open up your computer and see what all the bits were, you'd see two different areas of memory. One is called the stack, and that's where the method calls go. And the other one is called the heap, and that's where the objects go. And what you'd see is some horrible hexadecimal numbers. So I'm using these numbers here, and some of the areas of memory will be contiguous and some of them will be separate. So I'm showing contiguous areas of memory as sort of boxes here. So what do the method calls actually look like? Well, there's some method overhead. Then there's going to be space for each of the local variables. So in the case of the main method, there's the args and the list. In the case of the num5s method, that's method number 2, there's some overhead. Then there's the three variables, a, I, and result. And so those variables will be stored in whatever representation the computer has for numbers. So 3 and 2, they'll look like numbers in memory. But for a, what you're actually going to have stored is the address of another object in memory. So it's going to be some sort of horrible number. And it's a number in this case referring to a location in the heap. So you can see here, this location refers to the array A. And what does an array look like? Well, there's some overhead for every object. Just like there's overhead for every method call, there's a little bit of overhead for every object. And then what we'll see stored for the object is a length. And then for the corresponding length, there'll be one slot for each bit of data. And so in this case, the length is 4, and the data is 5, 11, 5, 5. You can also see here the array for args in the main program. The main program has a reference to this array. And if you look at the slot there, it'll have exactly the same value pointing to this area of memory. We also have the args array. And this is, again, a pointer to a object on the heap. The empty array is going to have the array overhead, but then it's going to specify a length of 0. So we don't actually have any data associated with that. So this is just to give you a feel for what objects actually look like in memory.